Here we go. It worked once again. Thanks to our fabulous tech team. That was Marcy running the video for us. Rada is here today. Thanks and love. Great to see you all. Let me do a little bit of spotlighting because today is just a little bit different than today sometimes is, because today, there we are. You've got Emma's Revolution in 2 Zoom boxes. Hey, Pat.
On 2 coasts, even.
On 2 coasts. Let's see if I can reach you on that side. We are so glad you decided to join us here today on this Sunday in November. We're really thrilled that we've got a wonderful guest for you today. Before we do that, I just want to say, yeah, so what's going on that coast, Pat? Does it feel like 4 o'clock or does it feel like 5 o'clock?
Or
maybe
question.
3 o'clock?
It was a late night trying to get things organized last night at my girlfriend's family's place. We're taking care of the last bits of a family member's estate. So we're all a little leery.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, we can hear you and we can see you. Can we add you in here? Are you there?
Yes, I have you up on my old laptop.
Wow, I'm sorry. A lot of people are talking about
updated Safari, and Safari will not let me join this meeting. They say so now and I'm trying meeting. It's not a valid meeting number, so I'm going to try it one more time and see if I just typed incorrectly.
Okay.
We see you and we hear you. We're just cutting out a little bit.
It's highly possible.
We also are happy to talk a little bit, and you can.
It's not going to let me do it.
Okay, let me you know what, Pat, I can send you another invite. Maybe that will help, Greg. So, Pat, do you want to talk about something interesting, and then Greg and I can try to deal with this?
Well, we are making good progress on our new CD for folks.
I did it before.
Have been following this. Was in the Friday with some of our friends there in the Bay, finishing up a couple of songs. I did all of my parts before I left town, and then Sandy convened a drummer and bass player and sax player to finish up on a couple of larger production pieces that we had. And then we're going to be working on our 20th anniversary CD. Sorry, I'm on an iPad, so my eye contact is going to be strange. I'm looking in the corner. The iPad. Sounds like Greg might be making some headway.
I am, and I'm. You just got to get rid of. You got to unpin the other laptop, the old laptop, and pin the new one.
Okay. Do that.
Oh man, I am so sorry. My apologies. I drove back from Rochester, New York.
Oh my!
And literally, I ran into a huge construction thing on I-81, and so I literally just got in the door and threw this all together. So
it's a life bring me. Stand it well.
Bless your heart. And let us give you a minute to breathe, because we do have a couple things to talk about. Also, I did know that you just got in because I called a little birdie, and the little birdie told me that you were going to make it and that you had just driven in. So I worried not. I had no worries. So catch your breath.
I apologize to everyone. I'm so sorry.
It's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's really lovely that you're here. And I think Pat was saying about, because we are doing these recordings, we can give you a minute, Greg, off, and then we'll call you up in just a sec. That way you can take a breathe.
I'm fine.
Oh, you're fine. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Well, if you're fine, then let us say that for folks who were here at our concert last week, you already got to hear Greg Greenway sing and perform along with Arne Batson, and that was totally a joy for us. And
usually we do it the other way around, where you get to learn a song and spend a little time with Greg beforehand, and then we bring folks in for the concert. But the schedule just worked out this way, so we're glad to have him come and teach you something. today.
We have a long personal and musical history with Greg. There's nobody we like to sing harmony with better, although there's other people we also love singing harmony with, but we love singing with Greg. And Pat, you've got a nice long history with Greg. You want to tell people about you and Greg and Greg's music and all that stuff, or want me to?
Well, Greg and I think that Greg and I probably met one another before you and I started to sing together. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Through the song nights, and we had that one particular fiercely deepening moment at the civil rights meeting.
Well, I thought you were talking about our other particularly deepening moment.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
But you're right, Civil Rights Museum.
Together, Greg and I.
Yeah, and Greg, Greg is another person who puts his personal life into the music that he does. And folks know Reggie Harris because he was here on our series before. And Reggie and Greg have this amazing show that they call Deeper Than the Skin, where they really look at what does it mean to be two people who have Virginia as a sort of starting point in their worlds, and yet because of who they are and how they look in the world, those experiences have been very, very different. And you bring a lot of strength and love and compassion in that show. So please welcome now, right off the road from Rochester, our dear friend Greg Greenway.
Thank you. I am so honored to be speaking to you. And these are my sisters. I love these two women and what they do in this world, and that we have done things like, I sang a song, No More Songs, Phil Oak's song, and I said, came up to them and said, you guys think you want to sing harmony? They said, oh no, we already did in the front row when you sang it the first time. So they made the harmony up just on the spot, and it's just so beautiful and eerie and haunting, just like that song is. So there's that, and then we've been on some incredible tours, and I won't talk about the other moment at midnight in Ashland, Oregon, when I truly, truly understood how much I loved you, Pat Humphries. But that is, I don't want to bring negative energy in. That was a magnificent. That's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen you do. So we'll talk about that maybe later on. But I'm a kid from Southside Richmond, Virginia. I call it now the city of falling statues, and I was raised, on Southside, with parents who barely made their way through the Depression and World War II, and so they were not broadly concerned about the world. They were mostly concerned about their lives, and and just putting one foot in front of the other. And so I grew up in this very homogeneous white neighborhood, but the world was coming to Richmond just about the time I was coming into music. And so my first hero was a guy named Richie Havens. Maybe you will know about Richie, a black man from Bedford-Stuyvesant who's just wore his heart, on his fretboard. And to me, that's what you do with music. If the music doesn't bear your soul, what's the point? So this is why these are my sisters, because they do it constantly. So, and the song that I want to bring to you today has such an incredible story, and it really talks about my relationship with art and what has allowed me to function in the world. I went to college, and I'm first generation in my family that went to college. And in my sophomore year at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, it was September. It was 1,000,000 degrees, and no dorms at the time were air conditioned, and it was 1,000% humidity. And any one of you who've lived in the South, there's a couple of weeks in the year where you just don't want to be alive. I mean, it feels like you took the shower. It just never happened. You step out of the shower, it's like it never happened. But so I was sophomore year, and I decided to take an upper level poetry class. It was 20th century British poetry. And I was sitting in my dorm, and this was like the first week, so I don't think I'd really acclimatized to any of it. And the first poem I was assigned was a poem by W.H. Auden called Musée des Beaux-Arts, Museum of Fine Arts. And as I read it, The second stanza started with "as in Bruegel's Icarus." So I was 0 for 2. I had no clue who Peter Bruegel was. I probably said Bruegel at the time. And I had no idea who Icarus was, and I have no idea, and I'm too ashamed to say how I must have pronounced that. So I just said, okay, you know, I'm going to have to look this up. This is going to take way more energy than I can't sit in a million degrees and do this. So I literally put down the book that I still have, A Little Treasury of Modern Poetry. And I put it down, and I went to the only place that I knew that had air conditioning, and that was the theater in Little Williamsburg, Virginia. It was the theater. It had great popcorn, cheap, and you know, you could go in there. And I didn't even care what the movie was. And I walk into the theater, and the movie opens up, and it was The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie.
Wow.
He played an alien, which was a real stretch for Dave. And he goes in this, you know, he's sitting outside at a cafe, and he's sort of insouciantly paging through a fine arts book, and he puts his finger on a photograph of Bruegel's Icarus.
Wow.
So at this point, I realized this was the universe hunting me down, telling me that in spite of yourself, you're going to learn something here. And so the painting of Bruegel's was, and I think that's in the 1500s, was of the world at work. Literally, when you look at the canvas, the largest figure in the painting is a man plowing a field with an ox. And then you see other people doing other things. You see a beautiful ship in the distance. And then way over in the right-hand corner, you see Icarus's 2 white legs sticking out of the green water. And of course, it wasn't an important failure, as Auden said. And so everybody just went on and did what they did. And this was such a statement to me about, let me turn off I might be getting talk back.
That's okay. And then also, I'm going to let you take it over. I just want to let people know that there are lyrics for this song and chords in 2 different kinds of tunings for you, all at the link at the top of your post. If you're joining us on Facebook, we're glad to have you here. If you're joining afterwards on YouTube, glad to have you here. You can download those and follow along. So we'll get out of your way. This is an amazing story.
Yeah. So it led me to understand the power of words, the power of poetry, to say something in such a short space that you can capture all of human existence. And he did it so beautifully in this poem that it woke me up. It woke me up, and I became an English lit major and eventually a writer. And a writer of essentially songs that are essentially haiku in a way. You know, you just don't have much space. So you have to use all the same tools as a poet to say what you need to say. So like all great works of art, once you touch them and they touch you, they become a part of who you are. They never leave you. And so that poem traveled with me to Boston, you know, where I was going to start my life. And one day, I was walking out of the Fenway where I lived, and I walked past a bench on the Fenway, and there was a guy who had been obviously living on the park bench outside. His face was all red with the weather and with the wine he was drinking. And I was shocked. I had never seen anything like that, being from where I was from. And I looked around, you know, and everybody's just, you know. And I just realized that I was reliving this painting 500 years later, the same human story that, you know, the first line of the poem is about suffering. They were never wrong, the old masters. And here was this man suffering, and everyone was walking past him. And I went over and tried to talk to him. He didn't want to talk to me. You know, I mean, and I just had minimal, involvement with him. But to me, this is something that we can't do. That mass culture is pushing us to this. That we walk past. That we experience things now in 2 dimensions on a screen. We don't experience them as a real person. That's a real pain and real suffering. So it's very important to go to the source, to keep our humanity. And so this is what this song is about. And a lot of what I think our careers are about is about reminding us of our humanity. And so, let's get the guitar. Long ago, this was the second song I wrote when I moved to Boston in that iteration of my life. And so back in those days, I still played in standard tuning. It's a really bizarre thing that people do to guitars every now and again. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but for this, I went back. Now, the difference in this is that I slacked the D down, the E string, bass string down to D. So how does everybody feel about that? I mean, is that too weird for people, or is that just, or are you all, I don't know what level that we're at, you know?
You got lots of people here who love to sing and will be thrilled to learn the part, and then we have a few people who play guitar, and I think they can handle a drop D.
I hope they can. Because
it is pretty easy for the guitar players that would show up here. It's mainly going to be singers that are going to soak in your.
But you've got somebody who loves her. What is it that Ginny's playing these days? Open G or something like that. So there are some people playing with tunings.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah. So when I go to the other tuning, that is a derivation of playing in the key in G tuning. And we'll talk about that. But more than anything, the chords are very standard in this song. And why don't I just sing it? So that, you know, why am I talking about this when I should just sing? Oh my goodness, all these years in show business. And the sun came up down an old dirt road, saying hello, new day, hello. It shone on my back like a father's hand, saying, my son, how you have grown. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart. And the bum lay down in a rain-wet street, saying, I don't care, I don't care. I'm far too deep in this cold, dark well of things that keep me here. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart. And on wings of wax he flew too high till he fell into the sea, and the ship sailed on, and the farmer plowed, and the day passed gracefully. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still hard. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you know from the start, the measure of all things is still the heart. So the chorus is the weird one, because you go from, well, you know, for those of you who speak the number language of chords, you know, if you're a classically trained person, that 2-5-2-5 thing is just, you know, half of music. So the first is just the one chord, the E chord with the capo, the 2 minor, the 5 chord, 5 sus with the 7th in it. But that's just what makes the verse, and that's just, and the sun came up down an old dirt road, saying, hello, new day, hello. It shone on my back like a father's hand, saying, my son, how you have grown. And here's where it gets interesting. You know, it goes 4 chord, that's not unusual. Sun goes up. But then instead of going to a 6 minor chord, which you might think, it goes to a 6 major. Sun goes up, moon goes down. So the melody stays on the same note, which means all you harmony singers get to be the star there for a second. And you knew from the start, the measure of all things is still the heart. So you can sing the third above it through the whole song pretty much. That's kind of what my surrogate family does. They sing the third above it and we all just kind of go. But that sun goes up, up, up. And we have 2 harmony experts here. What would you guys do with this?
I love that question. With that, I was doing that too. Sun goes up, goes down, and you know from the heart, measure of all things. But I'm singing below you, which is usually where Pat would be. What would you do, Pat?
Well, I was singing. Sun goes up, moon goes down. Is that I went to?
That's where it works.
Yeah.
I would have to be higher.
Yeah, so one's going, I'm going, sun goes goes up, moon goes down.
Oh, down.
So that's the note you hit. So somebody goes, sun goes up,
or I could go to that note.
And then I could do that note. I could do the C sharp then, whatever it's in that. Yeah.
And it would sound fantastic. It would take us three seconds to do this in a room together.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's taking us 4 minutes delayed to figure it out.
Yeah. Sun goes up, moon goes down. There's the chord right there. All right, does everybody have that? I can only see the faces of a few people. Maybe I should go gallery on my thing to see how people are viewing this.
Go rogue, go gallery.
Yeah, the cow looks really happy.
Yes, and we've got people saying Drop D is good and so beautiful over on Facebook, and people are loving the song here in the Zoom room. Dane says, I love this song. Caroline says, wow, so beautiful. And I saw Shireen's earlier that said, weep, weep.
You know, and there's a second part to the story of this, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible because I know we want to sing. But I have a kind of surrogate family, and I've sung this song for 5 generations of them. And in the first iteration of me being there, the grandmother, who was sort of off to the side, was sort of, she was like a New York social register person, and I never knew what she thought of me, you know. I just kind of, you know, blew in the door. And she never, you know, we really didn't have that kind of interaction. So I never knew if she thought, if she was just sitting to be there with all of her grandkids and stuff. And later in her life, she got Alzheimer's. And she lived on 66th Street in Manhattan. And I went to sing for her. And at that point, her memory was so bad that when she looked away and looked back, she'd go, "Oh, who are you?" She literally just had no retention. But I sang this song, and she sang note for note, word for word with me.
Wow.
Wow.
My God.
Wow.
It just made me cry. Number one, that this is the magic of music, that it's stored all over your brain, and that I've talked to people since then, therapists, you know, who say yes, that people who can't remember their own name can sing songs. So that's just really something amazing. But for me, it was amazing that, no, she was paying attention. You know, that I touched her, that I reached her. You know, this guy from Southside Richmond reached Manhattan, you know, social register. And that's just, you know, to me, this just, I don't know, I just felt so validated by that, just the fact that it touched her heart. And this is what music does. You know?
Right on.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Oh, man. So that song, you know, it just ends every concert of mine. You know, I don't tell that story. I just bring it to the concert because, I mean, just the painting by Bruegel and the poem by Auden are just so amazing. So if we're going, you know, we can do this if I hold out the note, then you guys can sing the harmony.
Right.
So if I'm going, and the sun, that's the first one, came up down an old road.
I know, Pat, I gotta go higher.
No, it's stay on one. Just choose one.
Yeah, and leading tones on Zoom probably aren't going to work. Can't rely on shifting to the note. So, but that's for all you singers out there. Those are the notes, and you just kind of follow along in your track, and that takes care of the verse. But the chorus is the one. So, sun goes up, moon goes down. That's it. You going up that step, Sandy, that does it. And you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart.
You got it.
So legato. So let's all sing it together. And I see somebody playing it, so you got it. Yeah, that first chord is like a D chord with that F sharp dropped off of the E string, and the third put on the D string. And that gives you that really nice third sound with that arpeggiation. So, here we go. And the sun came up down an old dirt road, saying, hello, new day, hello. It shone on my back like a father's hand, saying, my son, how you have grown. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still bum lay down in a rain-wet street, saying, I don't care, I don't care. I'm far too deep in this cold, dark well of things that keep me here. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart. Now let's all be cellos because they're all legato, and you guys can sing with me on this, and it might get a little weird, but it's okay here. Do do. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you know from the start the measure of all things still the heart. Bless you, Pat. And on wings of wax he flew too high till he fell into the sea, and the ship sailed on, and the farmer plowed, and the day passed gracefully. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart.
We just can't resist singing with you. It's
No,
so
and that's what I
nice.
did it so legato and stretched that out for.
Love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now, I mean, let me just do this because for those of you who have played in G tuning, let me move to my other guitar.
I also so appreciated hearing the story, so then I knew why there was a farmer plowing and a ship sailing, which I didn't know until you described it.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things where I hope that people will go look at the painting. You know, it's just like Pat just telling the story of going to the National Civil Rights Museum. Many people have come up to me and said, I was in Memphis and I went there because of your song. So imagine what you guys are doing. You guys are giving it the tour of America here in your songs, and but just the history and and going there in person. I mean, holy cow. But seeing Bruegel's painting, I've never seen it in reality. I think it's fairly small. But Auden's poem is just utterly brilliant. And if I hadn't just blown in the door, I would read it to you. But in fact, I'm sure someone can find it online and put the words up, because it's just Musée de Beaux-Arts for all you French speakers. And it starts with, about suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters, how it held its human position. And I should just go ahead and memorize it, because it's just in there. But Auden is a brilliant writer, because he's in a way his words are, he doesn't try to blow you away with his lexicon. He blows you away with his ideas. He was the poet laureate of England for a long time, but he's the one who wrote. And these lines, you think your education, people say, what do you do with an English lit major? You write a well-composed suicide note, No. I cannot tell you, if going through the night of my music, how many lines I can tell you were derived from something I read in a poem. One of the very important poems about my divorce, I stole something from Susan Oliver. No, Mary Oliver. Sorry, I know Susan Oliver. No, Mary Oliver. I stole from her. And this is a beautiful line when she said, I saved the only one I could. And so these lines are so powerful. And so they show up, and it's really funny. I played a concert once where one of the audience members was an English professor. And I saw her just going through the whole show. It was like, so I had to have her killed, because I couldn't have her revealing all my secrets. But
oh my! I did put the link in there. I did find there's a Emory University has a page that has both the poem and the painting.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
There are lines in that just as he talks about the torturous horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree, and dogs go on with their doggy life. This is that the world keeps going on, in spite of this terrible, tragedy in that life. And another song came from an Irish poet who wrote a short story about Daedalus falling into the garden of a woman in Ireland, and it was called The Weight of Feathers. And what a beautiful twist on that idea. And so I wrote a song for my mom called The Weight of Feathers from that. Of course, I had to ask her if it was okay, and she approved. So that was good. But and just for those of you, G tuning. Everybody knows G tuning from this. Bows and flows.
Right.
Joni Mitchell did everything you could possibly do in that tuning. But see, I am a frustrated bass player. And there's that bass string sitting down there that's not in the chord. And it just makes me crazy. So one day I just said, well, how do I get it in the chord? Well, I tuned it down to a C.
Huh.
Suddenly it was big. And then I wanted to play in that big key of C. And then this B note here made it a major seventh chord. So unless I was playing Bread's Greatest Hits, it wasn't going to be very useful. You know what I'm talking about.
We should do a cover band of that.
Yeah. So what I did was I got rid of that B and I tuned it up, So now I'm in this modal tuning, It's all G, C's, and D's. But suddenly, with one finger on the keyboard, I got that same chord for Icarus. And then it just kept going. Wow, and I just went, wow, it's even bigger on this. So that's how that evolved, and that song was a big test of this tuning, because I thought it was going to be just, some bizarre tuning that I'd used once, you know. And if you're Joni Mitchell, you know, she has a million tunings. Every song's in a different tuning because she does the exact same thing with her hand. she bars every chord. This is the truth. If you get her book of all her songs, it says in the beginning, and I know the guy who edited this, if it's hard to play, it's not right. Because basically what she did is she bar chorded everything, but and her absolute brilliance, she tuned the guitar differently and got the chords that her ears heard and made it happen in a way that nobody could have. I mean, I regard her as one of the great musical geniuses of our time. And but I couldn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we've got David writing in the chat here that Joni Mitchell played in as many open tunings as possible because she had polio as a child. So
didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Didn't know that part. And did anybody else just absorb note by note the album Blue? I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
You know, and Blue just it's just such an incredible, I mean, just the song itself is the lyrics, it just written out, those words are so beautiful. And the only song that I didn't get, I was kind of like that just would stand out wrong for me, was Little Green, you know. And then I saw an interview with her that explained that Little Green was about her giving up her daughter. That she got pregnant at a very young age and gave up her daughter. And that song is about that. And then I just went, oh my God. You know, I felt like I needed to pass out, you know, literature so that all the people of the world could go, no, Blue is perfect. So, but that G tuning, and then I tuned it, and I turned it into this tuning. Now,
so it's the G tuning with the drop D and what else?
With all to C. So your D's already dropped, so you drop it one more to C.
Okay.
And then the B string, you see, if you strum it from the bottom, it gives you a C chord. But if it's a B note, it makes it a major chord, like that case, like I'm saying with Bread's Greatest Hits. If a picture makes 1,000 words, why can't I paint you? So, you know.
Tell us how you really feel, Greg.
Yeah. So if you tune the B string up a half step to C, then it becomes this great modal thing. And you can play, you know, blues in it.
Right.
You can play all kinds of stuff in it. And it can be sweet, you know, it can be Icarus. It can be all these things, and you know, it can be nasty, you know. So it just started teaching me things. So I just continuously find new things in it. And I grew up with Richie Havens, who played in D tuning. For those of you who remember Richie was a drummer with a pick. I mean, his right hand, and I played all that. And this really gave me a leg up with my right hand technique. And then when I listened to people like Eric Anderson or James Taylor, who were finger pickers, my whole life has been sticking those two things together. So I can be sweet, and then I can be the excitable boy that I want to be. So that gives you the emotional tenor that you can. I mean, how do you sing a song like the song for Rosa Parks? You know, how do you sing that sweet? You know, there's nothing sweet about that situation. You know, how do you sing In the Name of Love without? You know, these are songs that are about. See, to me, this is what you guys do so beautifully. I really, when I'm teaching performance class, I divide kind of the world into two kinds of performers. One is a kind of look at me performer, and the other is a kind of listen to this performer. And I think most folk singers are listen to this. If you're a rock singer, you have to be a look at me. You know, look at me is really important. I mean, I was in rock for a while, and I looked at different lead people, and if you can get past, what does this guy do when he leaves stages, or what does she do with her regular life? If you can get past that and just see what they're doing on stage to attract your attention and forward the energy of that song, it's an art. And it was not mine. Was not mine. I'm a listen to this guy. So I got the WBCN in Boston, which was the #1 rock station, in America at the time. And did they lord that over you. How many times did I get told I was preachy?
Oh, wow.
Not as many times as we did.
But that's the way it is, it's preachy until it's Midnight Oil or somebody.
That's right. Good point.
Until it's a #1 hit, and then all of a sudden, or if it's Stevie Wonder, or until that's just the way it works. That world works. That it's so you've got to go through, all those, whatever they are, the filters of that, because they're all protecting their little space. But that's what I find so beautiful about the world we live in, is that here we are. It's just us, folks. There's no flash pots. I'm not wearing glitter, although Phil did that, but for his Golda Meir days, Phil Oakes. But for the most part, what we're talking about here is the power of words to move people's hearts and minds. And I had friends who were in the rock world. Suddenly it was a Boston group who started the Unplugged thing on MTV, right? So suddenly all these rock people were coming into folk venues unplugged, and it made them crazy. It gave them the heebie-jeebies, because they had never had people pay this amount of attention to them. The words were so important, and their songs just didn't carry that. So there's no amount of, I say this all the time to classes, and that is, it doesn't matter how well you sing or play. It matters how you communicate. And there have been so many artists that have been so truthful to that. When you speak the truth, and especially in a place where the truth is not readily available, that is the
or welcome.
most, or welcome. Yeah, absolutely. Then you're paying a price, as artists. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, speaking of that song, but but this is our power, to it was like, if I write one thing that sticks in somebody's life, like Auden's poem stuck in mine, or like reading Sunday Morning by Wallace Stevens, a month later. And when I'm reading the lines, and it goes, "Death is the mother of beauty." And for a whole year, I just went, how can that be? You got to be out of your mind. And then I went, ooh, I now understand that this is the definition of our life, is the end of it, tells us what time means. It gives meaning to time. And to what the value of it. And so it really is the beginning of all human values. So, I realize that in the poets in this world, and in the artists in this world, think of all the amazing lives and minds and hearts that are there, and that, to be discovered, that somehow if they weren't in the money train, if they weren't in the PR train of whatever was being sold at their time, then you have to find them. And I feel so blessed to be in this, to be able to do this, and to pursue that as a part of my life. It's an active part of my life, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people come to see us do what we do, because they don't have the time to do that because of the demands of their life. So we all have our job. You would not want to be working in an office with me.
Or with me.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to be what we are. We had to be there. So,
Yeah.
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 Well,
Well, you're getting a lot of amens in the chat here. Amen from Caroline and over on Facebook. So yeah.
well, aren't we just passing on the ripples that we got? That's what I've, if somebody tries to pin it on you personally, you're saying, no. Like, I'm just a poor imitation of what I heard as a kid, like I'm just passing this on.
Yeah.
And, when you think of it, Dylan was just an imitation of Woody Guthrie. And somehow he became Dylan out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the imitation of what we value, we show our values and then we take it to the next step. So, I just think that this is the greatest, and I appreciate access to all these folks.
Yeah, and these folks care about that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what has grown over the year and a half that we've been doing these sessions, is that it's about singing together and learning songs and singing about things that matter to us. We could get together and sing notes, but singing notes that have content and meaning and value to them is what we do here. So yeah. We're thrilled that you've been part of it. And do you want to maybe I was going to say, I have to sing that chorus again. It's just ridiculously beautiful. So let's do that. And then let's talk about what's coming up, because you're going to come back and see us soon too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm always happy to do that. Oh, now my brain is totally messed up that I played it in standard. So who knows what these chords will come out.
You have to look at your own chart, which I'm following. I have a very unusual experience of there are two guitars here. So I had Pat's guitar in standard, and now I'm in your C9. So I'm going to get to play.
Oh, yeah. Well, here you go.
I know.
Well, this is so easy in C9. You got one finger on that,
Yes.
Second fret on the fourth string. There's your big chord right there.
Yes.
All right. So you want to just do a verse and a chorus? So I'll do the last verse. And on wings of wax he flew too high till he fell into the sea, and the ship sailed on, and the farmer plowed, and the day passed gracefully. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you know from the start the measure of all things is still the heart. We'll do it really slow. Sun goes up, moon goes down, and you knew from the start the measure of all things is still the heart.
Come on now. Lots of love for Greg Greenway. Come on.
Thank you all so much for listening.
Oh my gosh, such a beautiful song. So much in that song for you, and that you shared with us. Really, thank you for that. It's beautiful and encouraging and inspiring. I like the idea of thinking about all the words and phrases that come our way that we might end up turning into songs the way you did. Which is
and if you choose people that are long dead, their lawyers are not coming after you.
That never stopped us, so okay. But I did want to let people know, and folks who are watching, we're glad you're here, on whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or you're joining us here in Zoom. We're just sort of announced it in our newsletter today that we've got these two concerts coming up. Last Sunday in November, and also the third Sunday in December. We're going to be doing, the 19th, thank you. We're going to be doing concerts where folks like Greg, who've joined us during these year of doing this, are going to come back. So we're going to have like a sort of gala, star-studded concerts on November 28th and December 19th. Still working out the lineup, but Greg will be back for one of those. Did you say one date or the other? I don't remember.
The December 19th works for me.
Then you're going to be on December 19th.
Yeah,
So
19 is a very magic number in my life, and maybe I'll discuss that then.
Wow. Okay. So, wow, that's tempting. So, and what else do you have coming up that we should know about?
Well, I have a brand new website, which is more accurate than ever before. And has more information than you'll ever want to know. I really try, as you were saying, it's different now with these concerts. It's more personal. So I've put more of these ideas, like what we've talked about what the backstory on these songs are. So when you go look at the record, you can get the lyrics, but you also get the artist's notes. Something you can't do anymore. When you used to have a big old album, you could write a lot of artist notes. But so you can go there, and also will have every other Thursday I will be doing concerts. So you can check my 7:30 in the East on Thursday nights. Not this coming Thursday. I just did one this past Thursday. So.
And those are on Facebook, is that right?
Yeah, they're live on Facebook and they're on Zoom. And on Zoom, we do this. Diana, my amazing wife, will unmute everyone, and we let everyone applaud or do what they want to do at the end of each song. So it feels like it's a really live thing. I can really feel the people. And then at the end, when it's over, we do a hang.
Nice.
We just, I get a frozen banana and I sit here and we just talk about whatever, you guys don't eat frozen bananas? This is the best thing ever.
We do frozen grapes, so I know what you're talking about.
Those are good too. Frozen bananas, though, but frozen bananas are more, because when the bananas start to go slightly, and you don't really want to eat them, freeze them, then they're great.
Yeah.
So we do that. So we have this same thing, this back and forth, and everybody talks, and we, it's great. It's like having a little coffee clatch without the coffee.
Yeah, and we do this too. That's good that you mentioned the hang. So folks who are watching on Facebook, if you want to come join us, there's a link at the top of your post, and you can come join us in the Zoom room, because we will do a hang, and we will direct all of our love and questions and comments for Greg to Greg first, so that he can go on with his day, and we also can hang and have our family hang that we have after. So yeah, I'm thrilled that you're going to be back in December, and we will announce who's coming when. And we have a couple sweet things I just want to let folks know about. November 13th, we're singing a couple songs at the Kiplinger lecture that's out of the Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church in Maryland, and it's a lecture on ethics in American society, and the person giving that lecture is Representative Jamie Raskin, who is a congressperson from Maryland and was an impeachment manager and just has brains and heart to spare. The guy is awesome. So we're psyched about that. November 21st, School the Americas Watch Vigil, and other things. But so sign up on our list, sign up on Greg's list, and thanks to our tech team, as always. We had Rada and Marcy here today, and our big tech team also includes Alice, who's in the room, Toby and Moria and Paula, some folks who help us out and keep this thing going. So we are going to do our hang. So let's say goodbye to folks on Facebook Live. We'll see you next time. Folks who are watching on YouTube, come join us live sometime when you can.
Join us.